systems to monitor progress. So one thing we didn't discuss here is, so what is happening is there's a separate process to replace the Commission on Sustainable Development. It's going to be called the High Level Political Forum. It hasn't been receiving much attention, but presumably this is the one which is going to be involved at the global level in monitoring the goals. And therefore we would recommend that it include the multi-stakeholder systems to help its operation. So since time is limited, I'll pass the microphone to my colleagues.
Okay, let me take the last question. Laszlo, you were shooting back. I'll take the last question. What's a strategic opportunity? If you ask me, the way I see it, thank God the economic crisis happened in 2008. Because otherwise we would have carried on business as usual. Everybody in a decision-making position knows that we cannot carry on business as usual. And that is the reason why I'm suggesting, see, the last time the global community looked at what is the kind of development process that we want was in 1987, Brundtland Commission report, 25 years back. In the last 25 years, the world has changed so fast, Anthropocene, that it's high time we stopped and said, where is the destination we want to go? And broadly at least define that. Because if we think we can tweak the MDGs, like one of our colleagues asked from there, tweaking the MDGs is not going to work. It came from a different conceptual base frame, so the tweak is not. Given that, I'm also going to jump on because we don't have time. In fact, I wouldn't place it as the failure of the nation states, even though many of us know that it is a failure. I will just take the positives from there and run with it, because if we start saying it as a failure of the nation state, we're not going to get anywhere. There's just too much. All the high-level panels, they will sit and rub each other's shoulders. So let's take what is positive and start moving from there. And finally, monitoring. I'll give you an example. While Surendra was introducing me, he said, we actually designed and managed the poorest area civil society program in India. The 100 out of the 600 most poorest states in India. Now that, in terms of size, the population and the size of that area is more than the population and size of Indonesia. So you can imagine how large it is. We actually designed a meal program, monitoring, evaluation and learning systems by illiterate local communities that was finally monitored in UK. The relationship between the most informal systems and again put it in the form of collective learning. It was possible to do it. So these things are easy to design and easy to implement. I'm speaking from a point of having implemented it. You need to have the will to do it. Thank you.
We can take maybe a couple of questions. I believe this time, compared to when the MDGs were discussed and finally set up nearly 13 years ago, there is a large body of proposals and inputs also for Rio, but also in the current discussion, that this time we have to have country ownership, really, the countries themselves in the driver's seat. So whatever type of construct we'll take in terms of the framework, the goals, whatever goals we'll be choosing, selecting, and monitoring in terms of targets, indicators, countries themselves will have to be the ones ultimately to deliver on those goals and to actually buy them in since the very beginning. So this is one of the issues. I think that there is really an improvement compared to the process which set up the MDGs a dozen years ago. Second thing, with respect to the knowledge question, which I think is also very important, from our perspective in the Asian Development Bank, we see issues relating to sustainable infrastructure as crucial. We have billions and billions of investments coming in the next decades, which could lock in a very low sustainability patterns if we don't go the right directions in terms of green growth and low carbon development. So definitely in our agenda, sustainable transport, clean energy, clean water, sustainable water management, and overall sustainable urban development is a very much important agenda. And we are working in terms of what kind of approaches also to engage not only the private sector in terms of financing, but also in terms of getting the right inputs from civil societies, from the citizenships more generally. That's a basic agenda. Another agenda also we are now looking at increasingly in terms of regional partnership, cooperation and regional funding, also global financing through the Global Environment Facility, is investment in natural capital in terms of maintenance of the ecosystems integrity. It's another area where we have critical ecosystems in various parts of our region and globally, and we really need to maintain those because they are not only important environmentally speaking, but also in terms of economic and social stability for future and current and both short-term and long-term. And finally, in terms of how we see basically some of the, maybe the time is already over, but I will just touch very briefly in terms of clean technologies. There's also another area where we look, not so much in terms of research or basic research, but in terms of actually how to make sure that the barriers to entry and whatever are perceived as risks by the investors and entrepreneurs actually can be lowered through type of partnership and various platforms which can facilitate the type of take-up, especially in the context of middle income, but also in least developed countries. So how actually to not only demonstrate, but actually push forward the take-up and the deployment of those technologies which are already technologically mature, or at least ready to take off in the market in terms of market penetration.
Thanks for the various questions, and it's a very insightful for us. And first, the research issues. We understand compared with 30 years before, that the issues are very diverse, but many of them are global issues. So research analyze what